Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Dear students, we have already discussed about the DDA algorithm, and now we talk about the BRESENHAM'S algorithm. So if we had the DDA algorithm, why the heck we need the BRESENHAM'S algorithm? The difference, the drawbacks in basically the DDA is the floating point operations. What we were trying to accomplish in DDA or in BRESENHAM'S, because both were the line drawing algorithms, okay, because you are trying to draw a line. So both were the line drawing algos. But what was the problem in the DDA? Because when you try to draw a line and you were applying the DDA, and we were trying to figure out how to increment the x or y, and we saw we had three cases. Okay, say for example this is my pixels, and the problem comes up because our pixels, okay, they are integers, they're integral, they're not points. So that means we had a three scenario. One scenario was that my line goes straight 45 degree, that was going between all of these pixels. So I had no issue but to color them up, but to color this pixel, for example, then color this pixel, then color this pixel, then color this pixel, to get a straight line like this, right? So this is when angle is 45 degree, exactly 45 degree. But we could have another scenario wherein if I draw it, so I have to draw it exactly, no, to get it perfectly, but I know these boxes I can't draw it without scale perfectly. But if I am, say this is my 45 degree line, but I'm not drawing 45 degree, but rather I'm drawing towards x, okay, I'm moving this line, say for example like this, okay, okay. Now if you could see here, say if I extend it so that I will have more visibility here, what I'm trying to do, okay. Now if you see this line going like this way, for example, okay, if for example this is my line, now if I want to draw a pixel here, I know this line is going from this pixel, I have to do it. Now this line, I know it's going from this pixel, I have to draw this. From this and this, I have to choose whether I go for this pixel or this pixel, but it's going from exactly from this pixel, so I have to choose this. Now here it's going from this pixel, so I have to choose this. Again from this pixel, choose this. This pixel, choose this. This pixel here, this pixel here. And now if you could see, one of this line now, it is going from this pixel and also from this pixel. So which pixel I choose? Should I choose this or should I choose this? So this scenario can come up many times. Right now I couldn't make it properly because of the boxes, but this scenario comes up many times when we have a situation where this is, for example, a pixel and the line is coming, say for example this is my pixel here, so I'm making it a little bigger, and the line is coming like this, which is going from this pixel and also this pixel. Now I have to decide, should I choose this or should I choose this? Because what I am trying to do is, you have to see here, say this is the x and this is the y going this way and x going this way. Now this is x0, 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm seeing all the time, so if I draw this pixel, so what was the coordinates? 0, 0. This is x and this is y. Now when I draw this pixel, so what is my x? X is gone to 1, y is also gone to 1. So this is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. When I move on to this, x has moved to 2, y has moved to 2 also. So in 45 degree, you increment x, you also increment the y. You go to the 4, this also go to the 4. This is why 45 degree is very simple and goes like that. But what about this guy? Look here in this scenario, in whatever we have done right now. So this is x is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and y, even though x has gone to the 8, y has gone from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So x is gone more because if we go, our line is below 45 degree here, that means going more towards x and less towards y. So that means it traverses more x direction than the y. As you could see here, x direction, it has moved up to the 8 points when it has reached here, from here to here. But in a y direction, it has gone only 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, up to 4. So यानी कि y कम चला है, x ज़्यादा चला है. So if you see first this pixel, when I draw this pixel, this is my x, this is my y. X was 0, y was also 0. What about next? When I draw this pixel, for this x is 1, but y is still 0. X is 1, y is still 0. So y has not incremented at all. Now when I move to the pixel 2, here x is 2 for this guy. X is 2, what is y? Y is 1. So this is 2, 1. Now x is also incremented, y is incremented. In this case, x is incremented, y is not incremented. Now in this case, x is incremented, y is also incremented. Now what about this pixel? When I go for here, I did that. Now this one, when I go here, this pixel. So x is incremented definitely 3, but y is not incremented. So this has gone 3, this is 1. Move forward. X incremented. X has gone to 4. This is 4 here. But y is stay 1. Y is not incrementing. Move on. This one. X is becoming 5. Y is incrementing this time. 5, 2. Now you go here. So x is becoming 6. X is incrementing, but y is not incrementing at all. Again, now here, x also increments, y also increments. What about this guy? Now in this, there is a tie between this pixel and this pixel. This can happen all the time. It's not necessary that in the back of these cases it doesn't happen. It could happen anywhere if I have drawn a proper line. Or these scenarios can come up when x is incrementing, y is not incrementing. Because I have to go x up to the 8 and y has to go slower. X has to go more, y has to go slower. That means there will be many cases when y is not incrementing, but x is incrementing all the time. As you could see, x is incrementing all the time. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Y 0, 0, 1, 1, 1, not incrementing. 2, then incrementing, then not incrementing, and so on. The last, when you go here, there's a tie between the two. So how I solve the tie between the two? Because when we use the DDA algorithm, we talked about that delta x and delta y. Then we talked about what is the x increment and what is the y increment, how much I have to increment x and how much I have to increment y, right? So that was if my delta x was, in this case, who is greater? Delta x is greater because it's going towards the x. So delta x is here greater than delta y. That means k is gonna be equal to delta x. And what will be the x increment? X increment will be delta x divided by k. And what will be y increment? Delta y divided by k. Okay. Now delta x divided by k, k is equal to delta x in this case when you are moving less than 45 degree. We had discussed that. And in that scenario, it is actually delta x divided by delta x. That means you are incrementing it 1 all the time. So all the time x increment is 1. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's all the time incrementing by 1. But what about y increment? Y increment is delta y divided by k. Whatever the delta y comes divided by k. It will never be equal to 1 because अगर ये भी 1 हो जाएगा तो फिर ये 45 केस हो गया ना. So it has to be lesser. Right? क्यों? क्योंकि डेल्टा x बड़ा है तो सीधी सी बात है k बराबर है डेल्टा x के. So delta y divided by delta x has to be less than 1. Why? Because we know delta x, the denominator is bigger. When the denominator is bigger, then delta y by delta x has to be less than 1. So it cannot be 1. So but the question is that means delta y comes up, this y increment comes up like a fraction. It comes like sometimes points. It comes like 0.2, 0.3, 0.4, 0.5, something like that. So whatever the y is, I have to increment using the y increment. Y increment. So if y increment is coming say 0.4 and y was 2, so it becomes 2.4. But the question is, are we plotting y as 2.4? No. We are rounding it off. Isn't it? We rounded it off. If we saw, hey, it's 2.4, just take it 2. Because we don't have points here. The pixels are like 0, 1, 2, 3. We don't have 1.1, 1.2, 1.3 here. We have pixel 0, then pixel 1, and so on in terms of y and in terms of x. So that's why we were rounding it off. We are cutting this 0.4 there. But if it was like 2.5 or 6 or 7, we make it 3. That means we are just doing one thing. We are either in this scenario where all the time next x next all the time comes out equal to whatever the x was plus 1. It is guaranteed. You have to all the time increase it by 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. But what about the y? But we saw y. If y increment is like 0.2, 0.3, 0.4, it has to be less than 1. If it is 0.2 up to 0.4, then we take its previous value, whatever the previous value of y is, we do not increment. So what are we doing? We're truncating this 0.4. We make it 2 only. So if the previous y was, say for example 0, we keep it as a 0. If previous y was 1, we keep it as 1. What has happened here? The y increment has come up like 0.4, 0.3, 0.2. So the previous one was y was 1. So what will happen to the y plus y increment? 1 plus say 0.4 equal to 1.4. Now 1.4, when I say 1.4, you are not incrementing at all. Why? Because you are cutting it, you are saying whatever the previous value of 1 was, keep it that. Do you understand? So overall scenario is either we are incrementing y or we do not increment y. So we have two scenarios here. X, it is guaranteed it will increment, right? So in case if I say here x all the time, x next, if I say it all the time, because whatever the x was plus 1. But y next, it has two choices. Either it will stay as a y, whatever the y was, do not increment, or make it y plus 1 or increment. Depending upon what the y increment was, okay, we got the y increment, we calculated y increment how? Delta y by k, and then in that scenario, if because it has to be less than 1, why? Because k is equal to delta x this time, because it is gone more towards the x, so delta x is bigger. k हम लेते हैं कि दोनों में से कौन बड़ा है, तो delta x ही बड़ा होगा इस सूरत में, तो इसलिए delta y divided by delta x, which is bigger, denominator is bigger, it has to be less than 1. So that means it can come from 0.1 to 0.9 or something like that. Then I have to increment this to y. Okay, here x increment is coming exactly equal to 1. So whatever the x value is, previous x value is, increment it with 1. Increment 1. Increment that x increment. Increment that x increment. X increment is all the time 1. But y increment, it can be 0.2, 0.3, 0.4 something. If it comes up to 0.4, what I do is I truncate that 0.4. I do not increment. I keep it like that. I do not increment the y. I increment x all the time. So I'm incrementing all the time x. I'm going to the next pixel, I'm incrementing x. Going to the next pixel, increment x. Going to the next pixel, increment x. But y, I do not increment or I increment. Here I didn't increment, here I incremented. I didn't increment, I did increment, I incremented. I incremented in this case. Sorry, I didn't increment in this case. In this case, I incremented. Now, in this is the one scenario. The second scenario is, so now the question which comes in the mind is, if I do not have to use points here, because these are all integers, either I have to increment the y, either I do not increment y, but I'm calculating floating points here. When I say y increment, I'm calculating these floating point. So I'm doing floating point operations. Floating point representation is very complex in computer science. Okay? So you already know that, how floating points are present and all. I'm not going into detail of that, but we know floating point operations are very slower. They are very processing. They are processor intensive. You need more processing power to do that, and it takes up a lot of memory and all that. And it's not easy like integer multiplications and all. But floating point operations, they are very tough to do. And if at all I needed them here, then it was कोई चारा नहीं था, floating point करना था. But I don't need that. I never use any points here. I either use the +1 to the y. x में तो कोई परेशान नहीं है, x तो हमेशा इंक्रीज होगा, लेकिन y का जो पंगा है वो मैं या तो इंक्रीमेंट 1 कर रहा हूँ या नहीं कर रहा हूँ. तो मुझे क्या जरूरत है ये फ्लोटिंग पॉइंट लेने की, जो कि मेरी प्रोसेसिंग पावर ज्यादा लेगा और जो मेरे स्लोअर कर देगा मेरे एल्गोरिथम को. सो वी नीड समथिंग बेटर, राइट. इसमें एक और सिनेरियो है, वो ये है कि आप इन दोनों में से कौन लूंगा. Now here, should I increment it, or I can take both. I can take either this. It is okay for me. I can take this only. I can leave this. But who should I choose? Okay, that is why sometimes we call, because of this scenario, we sometimes call BRESENHAM'S algorithm as a midpoint line drawing algorithm. So why is we call it midpoint drawing algorithm? Because we decide whether we have to increment it or not depends upon if this line is closer to the midpoint of this pixel or this pixel. Okay, so if we have a tie between the two pixels, some people and some books show it like there is a gap between the pixels and the line is going between pixels. Then which, if it is nearer to this pixel or this pixel. But there is no gap in the pixels. Keep that in mind. There is no gap in the pixels. It's actually to the center of the pixel. That means if we have, say this is my center of pixel of this one, this is my center of pixel of this one. So let me make it a little bigger to make you understand properly. I am saying this is my center of the pixel, this is another center of pixel, and my line is going exactly like this. Okay, right? Say for example, it's closer to this one and then this one. So if this line is closer to this pixel center, then I should do the upper pixel. I should color the upper pixel. But if it is closer to this one, then I should color the lower pixel. Okay, so these are pixels. Like this. Say for the line is going like this, and I am seeing, is this line going closer to this pixel or is this line closer to this pixel? So in that case, I will say which pixel I will choose. So should I choose this? That means should I increment the y? Because x has to increment, because it was here. Right now it was in this pixel. So I did that. X was this one. Now for this one, x has to be x plus 1. But y, it was y, say for example it was y. Do I have to increment y to the next y or not? है ना? यानी कि अगर मेरे पास ये ऐसे था, ये मेरा x 0 है, 1 है, 2 है, ये y 0, 1, 2 and so on. Now I am, say for example I have got some line which is coming, say for example it's coming like this. As you could see now, there is a tie between this pixel and this pixel, and there is a tie between this one and this one. So should I do this pixel or this pixel? Should I do this pixel or this pixel and so on? It depends upon कि line जो है वो किस pixel के नज़दीक है. अगर मैं इसकी बात करूँ, यहाँ पे इसकी बात कर रहा हूँ, इन दोनों के line में, ये क्या ये वाला पिक्सल में करूं या ये वाला पिक्सल में करूं, ठीक है, क्योंकि एग्जैक्ट लाइन जहां से जाती है वो मैं नहीं करता, क्योंकि वो हो गया देन वेक्टर ग्राफिक्स. Then it is that can be done if we exactly use y equals to mx plus c, the formula, vector formula of a line. This is a line formula. If I exactly calculate what is my y, what is x, so exact y is that is on line. But in raster graphics we do not draw the exact line, we draw it in pixels, we draw it like this, we will color this. So should I color this or should I color this? In these two, it depends upon if this line is closer to the center of which pixel, center of this pixel, center of this pixel. Say for example it is closer to the center of this pixel, then I should use this line, then I should color this pixel. That means all the time I'm incrementing x, but y, am I incrementing y or not, it is to be seen. Do you understand? So that is the second point. Okay, first point is that you are not incrementing the y, or you are incrementing y because this was going through this pixel. But there is now a tie between the two pixels. The line is going little bit on this pixel, little bit on that upper pixel. Should I use the lower pixel or should I use the upper pixel? What should I do? Okay, so in that scenario, I have to make a decision. So that is where the BRESENHAM comes up. The BRESENHAM says that, bro, we are not using floating points anywhere in my pixels. I don't use points. I increment y or I do not increment y. I simply use the 1 for the increment. Either I increment it by 1 or either I do not increment y. And x I increment all the time if the angle is less than 1. But if it is greater than 45, then y is incremented all the time. X is to be seen whether should I increment x or y. That's the इसका रेसिप्रोकल है वो. यानी कि अगर मेरे पास, मैं यहां पे बनाता हूं, ठीक है, ओके. अब अगर मेरे ये पिक्सेल्स हैं, और मुझे एक लाइन बनानी है, फर्ज कीजिए वो लाइन 45 के ऊपर जा रही है, ऐसे जा रही है. इसमें x 0 1 2 के पास गया है, बट y कहां तक गया है? 0 1 2 3 4. ठीक है, सो x 2 ही गया है, y 4 तक गया है. सो y ज्यादा जा रहा है, 2x कम जा रहा है. तो इस सूरत में आप देखोगे x हमेशा, y हमेशा इंक्रीमेंट होगा, x इंक्रीमेंट नहीं होगा. देखिए इसमें मैंने ये पिक्सल किया. So what is x? X is 0, y is 0. But what about this guy? I am incrementing it. I am incrementing y, but x is still 0. Y has gone to 1. Now in this case, I am choosing this one, for example. This is going closer to this. I am incrementing y. X is still 0. Okay. Now y has gone to 2. Now in this case, I am incrementing x as well as y. So x is gone to 1, y has gone to 3. In this case, for example, I choose this one or I could choose this one. That is depends upon which pixel is pixel center is closer to the actual line. Now if I chose this one, then I'm incrementing x as well as y. Now x is not guaranteed will increment or not, but y is all the time incrementing. So that means your y next will be equal to all the time whatever the y was plus 1, but x next is either the same x or it is the x plus 1. It depends upon I have to take the decision. I have to take a decision. Should I do it or should I not? It depends upon who is closer. Is this line closer to the upper pixel center or is it closer to the lower pixel center? Depending upon that, I will take a decision. Should I increment the x or not? If this will happen if your angle is greater than 45. This will happen if your angle is less than 45. But if it is equal to 45 like this, 45 degree here, then you have to increment all the time. You increment x, you increment y. You increment x, you increment y. All the time incremented. But in these two scenarios, if angle is less than 45, that means moving towards x more, you have guaranteed कि x को increment करना है हर बारी में. हर पिक्सल के बाद x increment होगा. लेकिन y इंक्रीमेंट होगा या नहीं होगा, इट डिपेंड्स अपॉन अ डिसीजन। लेकिन पॉइंट्स हम नहीं लेते, ये समझ आ रही है ना बात आपको? वी आर नॉट टेकिंग एनी पॉइंट, वी आर नॉट टेकिंग एनी डैम पॉइंट देयर। So why the heck are we using in DDA these points? We're calculating the floating points, okay? Then we are rounding them off. Then we are chopping those points to get it integers. So in overall, I am either choosing the previous value or incrementing it to 3. If it is 0.5, so x increment ये वाला था, आया था मेरे को, ये वाला y increment आया था, यानी कि ये जो 0.4 है, अगर ये 0.4 नहीं 0.5 आता इंक्रीमेंट या 0.6 आता, तो मैं इस 2 को इंक्रीमेंट करके 3 बनाता। अगर ये 0.4 ही है या 0.2 है 0.3 है, तो कुल मिला के जो पुराना वैल्यू 2 था, 2 प्लस 0.3 इज 2.3 और 2.4 इफ इट इज 0.4 इंक्रीमेंट, तो मैं इसको इंक्रीमेंट ही नहीं करूंगा, मैं इसको वापस यही 2 रखूंगा। ठीक है ना, बात में आ रहे हैं? तो ब्रेसेनहैम ने यही सिंपल बात आपसे कही कि उसने ये सोचा, जो कि हम प्रेजेंटेशन करेंगे इसके बाद, एंड आई विल शो यू व्हाट इज इट ऑल अबाउट, कि उसने ये कहा कि व्हाई द हेक आर वी यूजिंग दिस पॉइंट्स, वी शुड नॉट यूज दिस पॉइंट्स, वी शुड नॉट यूज एनी फ्लोटिंग पॉइंट ऑपरेशन। अगर फ्लोटिंग पॉइंट जरूरत होते तो फ्लोटिंग पॉइंट इस्तेमाल करने थे हमें, क्योंकि फ्लोटिंग पॉइंट के इंतजाम हमारे पास है। लेकिन जब फ्लोटिंग पॉइंट इस्तेमाल ही नहीं करने, तो मैं क्यों फ्लोटिंग पॉइंट कर रहा हूं? इसको एल्गोरिथम को स्लोअर बना रहा हूं। ठीक है ना? सो शुड आई टेक, अगर ये पिक्सल के बिल्कुल बीच में, अगर इसी पिक्सल में लाइन जा रही है, तो इसमें कोई डिसीजन की बात ही नहीं है, तो पता ही है कि इसको ये वाला करना है। लेकिन अगर टाई आ रहा है, इस पिक्सल और इस पिक्सल में टाई आ रहा है, तो उस सूरत में हमें डिसीजन वेरिएबल की जरूरत है। सो वी विल हैव व्हाट इज कॉल्ड एज अ डिसीजन वेरिएबल्स। सो हमें डिसीजन वेरिएबल की जरूरत पड़ेगी। अब डिसीजन वेरिएबल्स हम कैसे निकालेंगे, कि मुझे डिसीजन वेरिएबल से क्या पता चलेगा? डिसीजन वेरिएबल से ये पता चलेगा कि शुड आई इंक्रीमेंट, ये बात समझ आ रही है आपको, कि हमें सिर्फ डिसीजन लेना है कि शुड आई इंक्रीमेंट y और शुड आई नॉट इंक्रीमेंट y, शुड आई कीप y एज y और शुड आई मेक y एज y plus 1 if angle is less than 45. if angle is greater than 45, then x के बारे में ये डिसीजन लेना पड़ेगा, y के बारे में डिसीजन नहीं लेना पड़ेगा। y पता है कि y plus 1 ही हो जाएगा, यहां पे इस सूरत में ये पता है कि y will all the time be y plus 1. There is no problem with the y. I don't have to take any decision for the y. So in my cases in my program, if I say angle is greater than 45, so when angle will be greater than 45? When delta y is greater than delta x. When delta y is greater than delta x, I know angle is greater than 45. That in that scenario, I do not have to take decision on y, because y next will all the time be y plus 1. I have to take decision on at that time for the x, because x next will not be, it can be either x or it can be increment. Either it can be same x, as you could see in these three cases, it stayed as a x, it doesn't increment. In this case it increments. लेकिन y हर बारी इंक्रीमेंट हो रहा है। इस सूरत में x हर बारी इंक्रीमेंट हो रहा है, लेकिन y इंक्रीमेंट होगा या नहीं होगा, इसके बारे में डिसीजन लेना पड़ेगा। Now how should I take this decision is, I need to know कि भाई ऊपर वाला पिक्सल और नीचे वाला पिक्सल, इन दोनों में ये नजदीक किसके पास है। ठीक है, लेट मी डू दैट हियर, कि अगर मेरे पास ये सेंटर ऑफ द पिक्सल है, ये दूसरा सेंटर ऑफ द पिक्सल है, जो क्योंकि मेरे पास y में डिसीजन लेना है यहां पे, अगर ये सूरत है मेरे को y वाला डिसीजन लेना है कि मैं ये वाला y करूं या ये वाला y करूं, यानी कि y को मैं इंक्रीमेंट करूं या ना करूं, y को इंक्रीमेंट करूं या ना करूं, दोनों सूरतों में, इन सारे सूरतों में ये वाला y लूं या ये वाला y लूं। अगर मैंने ये वाला y लिया तो मैंने y को इंक्रीमेंट किया, 3 से 4 बनाया। अगर मैंने ये वाला y लिया तो मैंने y को इंक्रीमेंट नहीं किया, I kept y as same as the y. ठीक है ना? So it depend, ये किस पे डिपेंड होगा? ये डिपेंड करेगा कि जो मेरा लाइन जा रही है वो किसके नजदीक है, सेंटर ऑफ द पिक्सल के नजदीक है। क्या वो इस सेंटर ऊपर वाला पिक्सल जो है उसके नजदीक है, नीचे वाले का नजदीक है। सो आई कॉल दीज, जो मेरा ये एग्जैक्ट पॉइंट है, जो इस लाइन का एग्जैक्ट पॉइंट है, दिस इज द एग्जैक्ट y एंड x ऑफ दैट पॉइंट। x तो बहरहाल अगर ये वाला इसका पुराना पिक्सल ये था, फर्ज कीजिए ये पुराना पिक्सल था, क्योंकि हम सेंटर्स की बात कर रहे हैं, ठीक है, ये सेंटर में आना चाहिए था, चलो ठीक है, ये पिक्सल है, ये तो x फर्ज कीजिए 0 है और ये
1 है और ये y 0 है, ये 1 है, ठीक है। 0 से उसके बाद ये 1 तो जाएगा ही जाएगा, यानी कि अगर ये x है, ये x प्लस 1 पे तो जाएगा ही जाएगा, इसमें तो कोई हमें डिसीजन लेने की जरूरत ही नहीं है, x तो आगे बढ़ ही रहा है। लेकिन y में मुझे पंगा है, y में मुझे पंगा है कि मुझे क्या y जो मेरा है वो ये वाला लूं मैं या ये वाला लूं, यानी कि मैं 0 ही रखूं या 1 रखूं, यानी कि मैं y को इंक्रीमेंट करूं या नहीं करूं, ये किस पे डिपेंड करेगा? ये डिपेंड करता है कि मैं देखूंगा कि सर जो मेरा एग्जैक्ट y है और जो सेंटर ऑफ द पिक्सल जो बॉटम है, लेट मी कॉल इट d1, ये क्योंकि मैं कहता हूँ ये सेंटर ऑफ द पिक्सल है, सो आई हैव टू मेक इट लाइक अ सेंटर ऑफ पिक्सल, लेट मी मेक इट लिटिल बिगर, ओके, थोड़े से बड़े लेते हैं ताकि सेंटर ऑफ पिक्सल लगे, और ये भी थोड़ा सा बड़ा लूँ ताकि सेंटर ऑफ द पिक्सल लगे, ठीक है ना। तो मेरी लाइन ऐसे जा रही है, क्या मैं ये वाला पिक्सल करूं या मैं ये वाला पिक्सल करूं, कौन सा पिक्सल करूं, इट डिपेंड्स अपॉन कि मेरी लाइन जो है, क्योंकि ये इस पिक्सल में भी जा रही है, इस पिक्सल में जा रही है, इट डिपेंड्स अपॉन कि मेरी जो लाइन है क्या वो इस सेंटर ऑफ द पिक्सल के करीब है या इस सेंटर ऑफ पिक्सल के करीब है। आई कॉल दिस जो एग्जैक्ट एक्चुअल वाई मेरा है, जो इस लाइन का जो एक्चुअल वाई है, ठीक है, ये एक्चुअल वाई है ना इस लाइन का, ठीक है, वहां से इस सेंटर ऑफ द पिक्सल तक जो डिस्टेंस मैं इसको d1 कहूंगा, और ये यहां से जो डिस्टेंस मैं इसको d2 कहूंगा। अब सिंपल सी बात है, मैं देखना क्या d2 बड़ा है या d1 बड़ा है। अगर d2 बड़ा है तो मुझे कौन करना चाहिए, ऊपर वाला पिक्सल है बिलो पिक्सल, अगर d2 बड़ा है तो मुझे करना चाहिए ये, क्योंकि उसका मतलब ये छोटा है। अगर ये छोटा डिस्टेंस है, d1 छोटी डिस्टेंस है, दैट मींस ये लाइन करीब है इस सेंटर के, तो मुझे ये वाला पिक्सल करना चाहिए, क्योंकि जो लाइन मेरी है वो शार्प नहीं आएगी, वो ऐसे स्टेयरकेस की तरह आएगी, लेकिन जब जूम आउट होगा तो ये सीधी एक लाइन दिखेगी, इसमें ये ऐसे पिक्सल्स नहीं दिखेंगे। मैं पिक्सल्स की बात कर रहा हूं, जब मैं जूम इन करके इसको एक एक पिक्सल दिखा रहा हूं तो वो स्टेयरकेस की तरफ दिखेगा, इसीलिए वेक्टर ग्राफिक्स में वो शार्प लाइन की तरह दिखेगा, लेकिन रास्टर ग्राफ में शार्प लाइन नहीं दिखेगा, क्योंकि हम डिसीजन लेते हैं कि मैं ये पिक्सल करूं कि ये पिक्सल करूं, क्योंकि थोड़ा इसमें भी था लेकिन मैंने ये वाला पिक्सल किया, तो इस यानी कि मैंने ये वाला छोड़ दिया, तो यानी कि इसका मतलब है कि लाइन थोड़ी ऐसे दिखेगी, स्टेयरकेस की तरह दिखेगी अगर मैं जूम इन करूंगा, ठीक है ना, शार्प नहीं दिखेगी, हमें जरूरत भी नहीं है, क्योंकि जब हम जूम आउट करेंगे इसको वो सिंपल एक लाइन दिखेगी, हमें पिक्सल के लेवल पे देखने की जरूरत है ही नहीं। लेकिन इसमें रास्टर ग्राफिक्स में ये है कि हम बहुत सारी एडिटिंग कर सकते हैं ऑल दैट, जो कि हम वेक्टर ग्राफिक्स में नहीं कर सकते, और शेडिंग वगैरह वो सारी चीजें हो नहीं पाएंगी हमारी वेक्टर ग्राफिक्स में, so इसलिए रास्टर ग्राफिक्स आर मच इंपॉर्टेंट। नाउ मैं डिसीजन ले रहा हूं, ठीक है, कि मेरे कौन 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 डिस्टेंस मेरी छोटी है, so what I do is I will calculate d2 minus d1 or d1 minus d2, whatever you can do, like otherwise you can say d1 minus d2. Now if I say d1 minus d2, for example, if I say d1 minus d2 and it is coming say for example negative, ये कब नेगेटिव आएगा, when will d1 minus d2 come negative, that means d2 बड़ा है तब जगह नेगेटिव आएगा ना, जैसे d1 फर्ज कीजिए 10 है और ये जो बड़ा है ये 20 है, सो 10 minus 20 हो रहा है, सो नेगेटिव वैल्यू आ रहा है, सो दैट मीन्स कि d2 बड़ा है अगर ये नेगेटिव आ रहा है, सो मैं ये डिसीजन वेरिएबल इस सेट बनाऊंगा, जो कि डेरिवेशन हम करेंगे नेक्स्ट वीडियो में, ठीक है। सो मैं कह रहा हूं कि सर जो मेरा d2 है, ये अगर ये d1 minus d2 नेगेटिव आ रहा है, दैट मीन्स कि d2 बड़ा है, सो देन उसका मतलब ये भी है कि d1 छोटा है, सो मुझे इंक्रीमेंट नहीं करना चाहिए y को, इट शुड स्टे एज अ y लाइक दिस। लेकिन अगर ये पॉजिटिव आ रहा है, उसका मतलब ये पॉजिटिव कब आएगा, ये पॉजिटिव उस सूरत में आएगा जब d1 बड़ा होगा, तो d1 बड़ा है d2 छोटा है, then I should increment y, I should make y as y plus 1, and vice versa with this scenario when the angle is 45 degree, because I have to take decision in terms of x that time, not y, because y guaranteed increment all the time, x increment होगा या नहीं होगा depending upon this scenario, d2 minus d1 or d1 minus d2. Does it make sense? So Bresenham कुल मिला इसलिए हम इसको मिड पॉइंट लाइन ट्रिक एल्गोरिथम बोलते हैं क्योंकि मिड पॉइंट देख रहा है, ये मिड पॉइंट देख रहा है कौन मिड पॉइंट के नजदीक है, ठीक है ना। मिड पॉइंट किसका, पिक्सल का, कि कौन लाइन मिड पॉइंट के नजदीक है, इसलिए इसको मिड पॉइंट ड्राइंग एल्गोरिथम बोलते हैं। लेकिन ये ब्रेसन में इसका नाम था साइंटिस्ट का जिसने ये पहली बार किया, ठीक है ना, तो उसने हमें ये एल्गोरिथम दिया। समझ आ रही है आप, मेरे ख्याल से क्लियर आइडिया है आपके पास अभी, ठीक है। होपफुली आई हैव ट्राइड माय बेस्ट टू गिव यू द क्लियर आइडिया, ठीक है। क्योंकि आप जब आपका एंगल 45 से लेस होता है तो x ज्यादा जाता है, डेल्टा x ज्यादा होता है, k उसी के बराबर होता है, तो आप डेल्टा x डिवाइड बाई k करते हैं फिर, और डेल्टा y डिवाइड बाई k करते हैं ताकि y इंक्रीमेंट ढूंढने के लिए, तो उसमें फ्लोटिंग पॉइंट निकलते हैं, पॉइंट्स निकलते हैं, और वो पॉइंट हम y को इंक्रीमेंट करते हैं। अगर वो पॉइंट 4-5 से कम है तो हम इंक्रीमेंट करते ही नहीं है y को, वो 2 ही रखते हैं फॉर एग्जाम्पल, या 3 रखते हैं या 4 ही रखते हैं, जो पुराना वैल्यू था वही रखते हैं, ठीक है। लेकिन अगर ये पॉइंट 5 आ गया यानी कि उसका मतलब है कि हमें इंक्रीमेंट करना चाहिए, तो हम नेक्स्ट इंक्रीमेंट करते हैं। लेकिन यहाँ पे कहीं पर फ्लोटिंग पॉइंट्स का जिक्र नहीं है, क्योंकि लास्ट में हम राउंड ऑफ करके उनको 3, 2 वो करते हैं, उसको 2 ही बनाते हैं, इसको 3 बनाते हैं, 4 बनाते हैं, लेकिन 2.4 2.5 नहीं करते। लेकिन फ्लोटिंग पॉइंट ऑपरेशन यहाँ से चल रहा है फजूल में। सो टू मिनिमाइज दिस फ्लोटिंग पॉइंट ऑपरेशन, टू मेक इट एल्गोरिथम लिटिल फास्टर, बिकॉज हमारा जो मकसद होता है एल्गोरिथम का वो ये होता है कि इट शुड हैव अ लेसर कोड जब हम इम्प्लीमेंट करेंगे, एंड इट शुड बी एफिशिएंट इन टर्म्स ऑफ टाइम, इन टर्म्स ऑफ कॉस्ट, इट शुड बी एफिशिएंट इन ऑल द थिंग्स। इसका कोड भी कम होना चाहिए, इट शुड बी एफिशिएंट लाइक दैट, इट शुड नॉट टेक मच प्रोसेसिंग पावर, so my algorithm is better than this then, right? So that is why the Bresenham algorithm is all the time better than DDA algorithm. It saves a lot of time and a lot of efforts than what DDA does. Okay? So it's time to say goodbye, and in the next video or maybe the live class we have to see there's Ashura coming up also. Then we have a lot of our Shia brothers and sisters in the class, and I take an opportunity for them to be part of, I would like to be the part in their whatever the mourning they do and all. I want to tell them that we're also mourned, everybody is mourned, and everybody is sad about it, and everybody should take an opportunity to think about the sacrifices given by the overall Ahl Bayt and everybody around who have given sacrifices. They have given sacrifices actually for our betterment, so that we grow as a person, we make our iman better day in and day out, and we become better human beings. And better human beings is the crux of Islam, and it's a crux of Islam exactly, to become a better human being, which makes this world a better place. This is the essence of Islam, and this is the essence of the Karbala and everything, and Yom Ashura and all. The actual essence is to be a better person, to be a good person to your neighbor, to be a good to your father, to your family, to your friends, and to everybody. So this is what being a human or being a Muslim exactly mean, because Muslim is something better than humans. Because if you are a Muslim, you become better than humans, and you will never do anything which will harm anybody. So inshallah ta'ala, with that note, to become a better human beings in all aspects, okay? And to be a better human being, you do not need to follow any kind of anything, right? You have your common sense, you understand how to be a good person, and how to be a good, say for example, teacher, how to be a good teacher, how to be a good student, and just, leaving the debasing characteristics and adopting all the good characteristics, and what's called as a ikhlaq hasana, okay, and removing the ikhlaq razila. That is the actually the message of the day. So inshallah ta'ala, we all follow on it. We try to become a better human beings. With that note, I say all of you assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. May Allah bless you all, and see you in next lecture or maybe the video. Thank you.